Hey guys, we're here with the notes for 4.1. We're going to be writing equations from a slope and a y-intercept. So basically the two things that you're going to need today are your slope, which is your m, and your y-intercept, which is your b. I'm going to go ahead and scroll out for just a quick second, pause, write what you see, and then we'll get started. Perfect. So let's go ahead and start with problem 1. This is supposed to be pretty straightforward. So when you see an equation, you know that it's supposed to be y equals mx plus b. So whatever your m number is going to be next to your x, so 1/2 x, and your y-intercept is going to be at the end. We want to make sure that we don't put plus a minus 3. We only want to put one symbol. So my 3 is negative. I'm going to make it 1/2 x minus 3. That's it. That's what we're doing today. So problem 2 is very similar, except I didn't just tell you the number. I made sure that I gave it as a full point. So if you think about the point 0, 6, that means we're going 0 left or right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up. That point is on the y-axis, which makes it my y-intercept. So my b, or my y-intercept, is 6. We would put our m next to our x, 2x, plus 6. Okay? Problem 3 and 4 and 5 should be very similar to that. We're going to put our negative 2/3, that's our slope, next to our x. But the only difference here is we're not going to put plus b. We don't want to put plus 0 because we'd have never seen that in an equation. We know that if there's nothing after it, that's what makes the b a 0. Okay? Number 4 is just the same, straightforward, negative 3x for my mx, plus my b, which is plus 5. Number 5, we have that y-intercept. It's a point again, so we're using the y value because it came off the y-axis. Remember that if that point was like 2, 4, that would not be the y-intercept. It's only because it's on the y-axis starting with a 0. So we would say 2/5 x plus 4. Okay? Problem 6, 7, and 8, now we're really getting into the ones that you have to be paying attention for. Okay, so when a slope is 0, you have never seen me write an equation as 0x plus 7. We would never write an equation like that. So if I take out the 0x, what's the only thing I have? Well, I have a positive 7. And that makes sense because our y equals, those are the ones where we had a 0 slope. So my equation is just y equals 7. That's it. Okay, no x's in that problem. Let's do the exact same thing in number 7. My slope is 0. That means I have a plain y equals. We don't write 0x. But I know it's a y number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the y number out of my point and I'm going to use it. Y equals 2. That's my equation. No extra work, no processing. I just need to know that I want the y. Now number 8 is kind of the opposite. When I see an undefined, that means it's a vertical line. It's going through the x-axis. So I want to use my x equals. I don't have an x-intercept. I'm not going to have an x-intercept, but I do know that x will always be the same number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the x value out of the point they give me. So my x equals 3. That's my number. Okay? What I would suggest you do right now is try to pause the video, work through page 109, 1 to 10, see how you do with that before you start the next section. Okay? All right, if you've already done that, then let's go ahead and look at 4.2, the second part of this. Okay, now we're writing them from a graph. You're still going to be using your m and your b, except now you're going to have to find it off a graph. You're going to have to count the rise over run. You're going to have to find the y-intercept on the y-axis. Those values are what you're looking for. Okay, let's go ahead and try the first problem. So remember that when we count a slope, we are counting how much it is rising over how much it's running. It's also important that you simplify. Simplify. There we go. Okay. So on this problem, if I count my slope and I'm reading it left to right, I'm rising up 5 and over 5. So I would say I rise 5, run 5. If I simplify that, I'm going to get a positive 1. Okay. That's what slope looks like. If I'm looking for the y-intercept, then I'm going to focus only on where does my graph cross over this y-axis. Well, on this problem, it hits at the origin. That makes my b a 0. Okay? Before we worry about equations, let's just think about that. Okay? Problem 2, I have a lot of students that try and start at this dot. Here's the problem. That would require me to run backwards. We know that we always run to the right. So if I think about this graph, as it moves to the right, it's going downhill. So how far down? Down 1 box. I make it negative to show that it's going down. For the running, I'm moving 1, 2, 3, 4. To the right 4. That problem does not simplify, so my m stays 1/4. It's negative 1 over 4. My b, however, isn't hitting the origin this time. It's hitting the graph at a positive 3. So that right there is positive 3. That doesn't look like a 3, sorry. There we go. All right, number 3, same idea. We're wanting to read the graph from left to right, so it is rising up as it moves to the right. So we're going up 6, over to the right 1. Well, 6 divided by 1, you've never seen that in an equation. What you see is 6 divided by 1 makes a whole number. That's 6. We put it over 1 to make the graph, but you've never seen that in an equation. As for my b, we got to look at the y-axis. I'm not hitting at the origin. I'm hitting the graph at a negative 2. Okay? All right, now that we've seen a couple of these, let's go back and plug them in. Okay? For problem 1, pause for just a second, put your pencil down, and just watch. Okay? Don't write this yet. If I was to plug in everything that I have, it would say y equals 1x plus 0. We have already talked about not writing zeros in equations. But what I hope you remember is you've never seen a 1x either. We know it's a 1 when we only have an x. We know that that's my little ninja 1. So the only thing that you should be writing down for problem 1 is y equals x. That's it. Okay? For problem 2, sorry, you can pick up your pencil. Go ahead and write this now. For number 2, you're plugging in the values you found. Y equals negative 1/4 x. Notice that my x isn't up with the 1, and it's not down with the 4. He is out next to my fraction. That's how it should look. Negative 1/4 x plus 3. Okay. Problem 3 should say y equals 6x, that's my m, minus 2. There's my b. Every one of these equations, if you have a number for slope, it should have an x. Okay? All right, let's go down to problem 4. Problem 4, I don't really need the dots to find slope. It's horizontal, that should be a 0. My graph is hitting the y-axis right here. That's a positive 2. For number 5, I notice that I am going to need my arrows. My graph is going down as it moves to the right. So I'm going to zoom in. We are going down 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1, 2, 3, 4. Down means negative 4, over 4. We want to simplify that. You would never see a number over itself in a fraction. Negative 4 divided by 4 makes a negative 1. My b, however, is at the origin. Okay, put your pencil down for just a second. Put your pencil down for just a second. Okay, don't write these down. Number 4, if we plugged in everything, would say 0x plus 2. Number 5, if we plugged in everything, would say negative 1x plus 0. I want to make it clear one more time. We don't put zeros in equations. So we're going to take out this 0, and we're going to take out 0 x's. Okay, I don't have that. So problem 4, the only thing that you should have is y equals 2. There isn't any more information. Problem 5, you want the y equals negative 1x, but we don't need the 1. We only want to keep that negative. Okay, so your equation should say y equals negative x. Go ahead and write those two answers down, and we're going to move to number 6. Okay, number 6. Your slope is a vertical line, which means that we call that undefined. When you have undefined, remember that that means we're going to use an x equals. So I don't have a y-intercept. I never touched the y-axis. That's why we're putting the none. So if I grab my equation and I say x equals, well, how am I going to get that number? I'm going to look and say, what x did I hit? Well, I crossed over at negative 4. That is my equation. If you need to pause for just a second and copy down all the answers for 1 to 6, go ahead and do that now. What I would encourage you do is go to page 109, try number 11 to 16. Make sure you've got a handle on that before you finish these notes, okay? All right, if you've done that, we're going to go ahead and flip to the last section. Go ahead and look at page 108, copy down what you see, and we'll get started. All right, so on these problems, we are going through the same process. We're still finding our M and B. We're still writing equations, but these two pieces are going to be new now, okay? Because today on these sections, you're going to have to be worried about your symbols. So we have all of these for options, but we are not using equal tos anymore, okay? All right, so problem 7. Let's start with our M and B's. Problem 7, I am rising up 3. I am running to the right 3. 3 divided by 3 makes a positive 1. I'm crossing my y-axis at the origin. That makes it a 0. My graph, it is shaded above. Remember that that means that we are going to be using a greater than. Okay, it's set up like this problem. But when I choose my symbol, I also have to remember that it's solid. Solid means that I'm going to add this little or equal to underneath it, okay? So when we make our full equation, we're going to start it with y is greater than or equal to, and then you can put the rest of your equation. We don't say 1x plus 0. Remember, we only say y is greater than or equal to x, okay? All right, let's try number 8. Number 8 is going down 2, that's negative, and to the right 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 makes a negative 1. My y-axis, or y-intercept, is still at 0, so this one's going to look very similar. We are shaded below this time. What kind of symbol is below? That's going to be a less than. And this time, with it being dash, remember that there is no equal to. It's only a plain less than. So our equation starts out, y is less than. Remember, we have negative 1x plus 0, but I do not want the 0, and I do not want the 1, only the negative. Y is less than negative x. Okay. Problem number 9, we're counting our slope again. I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. So up a positive 4 over 1. We simplify. 4 divided by 1 in our calculator is a 4. My y-intercept should be on the y-axis. It doesn't have to be a dot. It's just where it crosses. It hits down here at negative 4. Okay. Moving into my shading, that is under the line. So this one's going to be below. We're using a less than again. But this time with a solid line, we want to make sure that we put the or equal to under it. Okay. So y is less than or equal. We're going to use all of our numbers now, 4x minus 4. We don't use the zeros and we don't use the slope of 1, but 4s we want all of, okay? All right, we have 3 more. If you need to pause it, go ahead. We're moving to 10, 11, and 12. All right, problem 10, our slope is straight across. We're going to remind ourselves that that's a 0. And I know it's kind of hard to see the b, but if we zoom in, see how this is my x-axis? That means I'm up 1 box, 2 boxes. So my y-intercept should be at a positive 2. My graph is going to be shaded below one more time. That means a less than. Because it's solid, we do need to add the or equal to. So y is less than or equal to. We are not going to do 0x plus 2. We're going to take out that 0x. And I don't need the positive. It's just y is less than or equal to 2. Okay. All right, 2 more. Problem 11. We are going down 2, right 3. So down makes it negative 2. Right makes it positive 3. My y-intercept, it's not the first point on this one, but it is where it crosses the y-axis. So it hits down here at a negative 3. My graph is shaded above. That uses a greater, but it's dashed, so I do not have an equal to. My equation looks like y is greater than negative 2/3 x. Make sure you have the x in there because you do have a number for slope. And then minus 3 is your b. We are on a very, very last problem. Please make sure you write all of this down. For our slope, it's vertical. We call that undefined. And remember that when you're using undefined, we need to use an x equals equation. Okay? I do not have a y-intercept because my graph does not ever cross the y-axis. It hits the x-axis, and that's going to help us shade. Okay? So if I start this graph with an x, and I know that it's hitting right here at 2, I have to decide, is my graph being shaded greater than 2 or less than 2? Well, it's going to the right, and that is all of the numbers that are greater than 2. It is a dash, so I'm not going to put the or equal to it. But remember that these are numbers like 3, 4, and 5. Those are greater than 2.